Today, this woman is encouraging people to divorce their husbands if they support Trump.
I just saw a heartbreaking video of a woman who realized now, 8 years in, that her husband is a Trump supporter. I can't even imagine that. But I would get a divorce immediately, and there are going to be Republicans on the
Oh,
internet that are really mad about this because I'm spreading hate and divisiveness. But like, I want people to have control over their own bodies. He doesn't. I want women to be able to do whatever they want. He doesn't. He doesn't even want us to be able to vote.
huh?
I want it to be easier for people to vote in elections. And he said, if you vote this time, you'll never have to do it again. So people who say that it's divisive to think like that politically, I would not be able to live in the same house with someone who had such fundamentally different beliefs. How could you love someone that supports a person who wants to strip you of your rights, that wants you to bleed out in a hospital room rather than giving you the abortion care that you need?
So there's a lot to unpack here. First and foremost, I mean, if you're finding out 8 years in, and I know this isn't her, this is another person who was talking about, but if you're finding out 8 years in that your husband is a Trump supporter, there's something wrong here beyond just politics. Like, how did you never discuss this? Did he lie to you for many years? Like, there's a communication or honesty issue there that's actually a problem. But just the political difference itself shouldn't be. And it's actually insane and frankly kind of evil to tell people they should destroy their families and disown their loved ones just because they vote for people at the different people at the ballot box. That is such a totalizing and reductionist worldview that basically says that one part of you determines whether you're a irredeemable human and leaves no room for nuance or complexity or the notion that some issues are actually really complicated, abortion as much as any, and that good people could reach different conclusions in good faith. No room for that, just total black and white view of the world, very childish, good and bad. How could anyone disagree with me on this? They must be evil. There's no other explanation. And some of this is just unhinged. Like, what is she talking about? Trump doesn't want women to vote. He's never said that. He's not opposed to women voting. That's just a weird lie. In the same way, when she talks about how Trump said you'll never have to vote again, she's taking that totally out of context. What he was doing was telling his supporters to show up to the polls this time, and then he'll solve the problems they care about, and he won't really care if they show up next election. He wasn't saying there won't be any more elections, I'll take over. That's just a total distortion and lie based on what he actually said. And I just can't relate to this idea that you can't love somebody who disagrees with you or has different political views. That is so, to me, bleak and just divisive and toxic. People can be complicated. People can have differences of opinion. People can have dimensions to them, some of which you really appreciate profoundly and love, and some of which you don't agree with. And that's okay, but that's part of the human experience. We're not meant to look at each other as black and white NPC automatons like this woman clearly does. This whole rant's also crazy because Trump has actually taken a somewhat moderate position on abortion. He's not a hardcore pro-lifer. In fact, many of the extreme pro-lifers are really upset with him right now because he's come out as pro-IVF. He's come out as against a federal abortion ban, saying leave it to the states so they can all decide. And even in his state, Florida, he's opposed restrictions that are very harsh, very severe restrictions on abortion, wanting to preserve some level of abortion access. And he's always maintained that he supports exceptions for extreme rare outlier cases, the typical exceptions. So obviously his judges did overturn Roe v. Wade, which then sent abortion policies back to the states. That's something I agree with and think makes sense. But Trump, so you can blame him for that, sure, but his actual position on abortion isn't even extreme pro-life. Even if it was, I mean, you shouldn't divorce your husband for supporting him, but it's all the more delusional when the guy you're so upset about isn't even nearly as extreme on this issue as you're making him out to be. I actually feel bad for this woman because she's closing herself off to a lot of healthy relationships or positive experiences with other people who are different from her because of her narrow-mindedness and toxicity. And if it was just her doing that, at least then it's just affecting her own life, I guess. And I guess it's not the end of the world. But to be going out into the internet and telling people to get divorces for reasons that are ultimately trivial in the scheme of our individual lives is actually really evil and sick stuff. And I am just so disheartened by it. And I really hope people like this stop putting out that toxicity and negativity into the world. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments, because that one was a real doozy.